President Trump's first big meeting at NATO went off without a hitch. What a splash he made when the president called out alliance members for not paying their dues.
NATO members must finally contribute their fair share and meet their financial obligations. But 23 of the 28 member nations are still not paying what they should be paying and what they are supposed to be paying for their defense.
Yeah, they weren't clapping along there. How weird. Of all the NATO members, the U.S. spends by far the most on defense, $664 billion in 2016. Number two, it's the UK. They pay about 8% of what we do, $57 billion. So will the negotiator-in-chief get the other guys to pony up? Let me bring in my battle-ready party panel tonight. It's Democratic strategist and the Young Turks political reporter Nomiki Konst, joined by Observer columnist Michael Malice, and former Florida congressman and author of Democracy, it's Trey Radel. Welcome, everyone.
Hello. Thank you.
So, Trey, I will start with you. Those faces were so priceless as the president was lecturing them. Is he wrong in his assessment
No,
that perhaps
he's not.
some of the member nations don't?
Looking at the news these days with the Trump presidency is like reading a Hunter S. Thompson novel where you don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
You read it and you're like, did he really just say that? Or is Thompson just dropped something and you have no idea what he's writing about? Yeah. You look at this and you think it's all nonsense. Exactly. There we go. But what I would say, though, is that there sometimes is a method to the Trump madness. Let's look at the way that Merkel actually did agree to pay, in fact, more in her percentage to NATO. And I would even say that while I radically disagree with Republican and Democrat foreign policy, for example, bombing Syria, what that also did in the way that Trump works is it leaned on China to start dealing with North Korea. So while it may be a gonzo presidency, sometimes
that
he has
unpredictability
has led to a few
you may have disagreements with NATO, but and the fact that it exists in the first place. But the one thing that I will say is it's so annoying to see politicians say one thing stateside and then just flap their gums in the opposite when they go overseas.
What this reminded me of was 79 or 80 when Margaret Thatcher first joined the European community, and she sat there and she looked like a crazy person. She said, we don't want the community's money, we want our own money back. And she got that money back, and years later she gave NATO the greatest gift they've ever gotten, which was the dissolution of the Soviet Union. So being a lunatic is a very effective negotiating technique when you're dealing with politicians, because they want the veneer of civility and they want to be like, look, this guy means what he says. We have to work with America in some circumstance. Let's give him what he wants.
Yeah, I mean, if you really are opposed to a one-world government, then don't accept the protocol. Don't accept the veneer. And I think it's absolutely fine. And what I also like is the president is going over and meeting with the EU and meeting with the secretary saying, you know, come on, guys. And they're all worried because he was on the side of Brexit, hoping that that would be a bellwether for his election, and it turned out there were some similarities.
But who else is now on the side of Brexit is Theresa May, and she's not really dealing with him very well right now. I think the question is, what are the intentions? Okay, so he is a nationalist, and he wants to pull out of NATO and build these relationships with the EU, but we all know what's really going on. At home right now, you know, James Comey is testifying over Russia. And they're very aware of what's happening, and the utility of Donald Trump sending this message about NATO is really, he's a spokesperson for Vladimir Putin, and they're aware of it. And I think that's what we have to sit back and say, okay, is this just a crazy nationalist, or is this a crazy nationalist who's being used by the Russian Federation?
Well, being Russian, how do you respond to that?
Yet.
No? Really?
You speak Russian? Now you're in
Fluent.
payroll also. Typical communist.
So is this presidency a mouthpiece for Putin, and is it in opposition with the EU and their view of Russia's role in the world?
Putin is persuasive and coherent, so he is not a mouthpiece for Putin in any sense of the term. And I think just my enemy's enemy is not necessarily my friend, and my enemy's friend is not necessarily my friend also.
Yeah. Otherwise, we'd be committing logical fallacies all over the place. We've got more on the Manchester terror investigation in just a little bit. But first up, the president's next big event on his trip. It's tomorrow's G7 summit in Italy. Now, this one is major, and here's why. The G7 represents the world's 7 most advanced economies, and the leaders of those countries will be questioning the president on a host of topics, including trade, refugees, and climate change. So how hard will President Trump push his America First agenda. I mean, this is an even bigger test than we've seen in Saudi Arabia and at the Vatican, and certainly with some of these NATO members, because you've got Italy, who's going to push the president to take more refugees, and several of these Western European countries who want answers on climate change, particularly the new president of France, who wants to know if we're pulling out of Paris. Well, and the climate.
We've talked about and dealt with the unpredictability of President Trump, but something that has been somewhat consistent is when he meets with people one-on-one, he tends to be a little bit more influenced by them. I mean, whether it was him breaking with a meeting with President Obama to some of these other leadership meetings that he's had, he is malleable. Whether or not that happens out of this meeting, time will tell.
All right, what do you think?
I think he's got this is really his wheelhouse. I mean, if someone's dealing with real estate all around the world and hotels and commercial properties like that, this is something that he's going to be good at glad handing, good at cutting deals and meeting people halfway. So if there's anything that Trump's going to be good at, other than humiliating the left and driving them hysterical and making them think Putin's behind everything, you know, not naming names, this would be his absolute forte.
Why is this trip going so well for him? There haven't been any major gaps.
We go to you.
I'm going so well. I mean, the bar is really high right now.
Yeah, but exactly. I think there were low expectations and low poll numbers, and so people assumed that it would be a disaster at every turn. But actually, he's been on message. He hasn't been on Twitter, and he's been charming the pants off of people.
There's also an 8-hour time difference. A lot of things are happening. He's scripted when he's giving speeches. I really want to hear the insider perspective after he leaves about these one-on-one conversations. What we do know about those
Why are we getting leaks on those conversations?
Because the leaks are coming from the White House, and he's not at the White House right now.
That's a great point.
Then empty the White House.
It's coming out of when he is in Washington, D.C., but we haven't really seen it as of late, but it's certainly a disturbing trend.
All right, well, what is also disturbing is I'm going to see the panel a little bit later. Great. Why it's opposite night? I love the panel. Malice, I adore you.
You're so funny.
You are a human succulent, and that's why my adoration grows. All right, now to the Manchester terror. All right, the special congressional election in Montana. They are in Montana and Georgia. They were supposed to be a referendum on Donald Trump's presidency, but last night, it turned into a referendum on one candidate's wrestling skills. Republican Greg Gianforte did not appreciate a reporter barging into his office and shoving a tape recorder into his face, so he apparently took matters into his own hands.
Speak with Shane, please.
But you don't. I'm sick and tired of you guys. The last guy that came here, you did the same thing. Get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. The last guy did the same thing. You were the Guardian?
Yes, and you just broke my glasses.
The last guy did the same damn thing.
You just body slammed me and broke my glasses.
Police charged Gianforte with assault for the altercation, but it may not hurt him at the polls because 70% of Montana's electorate voted early. But the outcome of this special election and the upcoming one in Georgia could hurt the losing party big time, as many believe they are a bellwether for the 2018 midterms. The party panel is back to break down all the possibilities, but hopefully not my glasses. No, Mickey, Michael, and Trey are back. So, Trey, you've actually been in that position. You've had tape recorders thrust in your face by randy reporters.
And I've been a journalist, so I've been that jerk with the tape recorder and camera and microphone. I've done them both. Yeah, exactly. I've been on both sides of it, and it's terrible.
Who's wrong here?
Look, you cannot take a 5-minute segment out of one person's life and say that they're a terrible person for everything that they've done.
What?
I don't think that. I still think.
What if that person?
Okay, I mean, I'm just talking about the guy fighting.
Does a number of horrific things that I'm thinking right now that I won't say out loud.
Everything that I've seen about this guy and read in my short time of getting to know Gianforte, whoever this dude is overwhelmingly he seems like a pretty decent guy, a family guy, has children, all of that. Obviously, dude has a temper and loves to watch WWE.
Yeah.
But what he did, I don't think that disqualifies him or makes him unfit to serve in the United States Congress.
Michael, do you have words right now because you actually look stunned?
I remember in 1984 when a certain reporter asked a wrestler if wrestling was fake and he was assaulted, and that reporter's name escapes me, but he went on to obscurity.
I believe it was Juan Stasel.
I don't speak that language, whatever that may be. However, you remember during the campaign, President Trump was saying that he'd be executing reporters. So this is already another campaign promise that the president has broken, and the establishment is maintaining their hold on power by weakening everything that he said we were going to get.
All right, so does this actually hurt him, or is this the kind of thing for the 30% who are remaining and who are voting as we speak in Montana? They might look at this and say, you know what, good. Another politician who's fed up with the nosy media.
My guess, if I were going to put on my electoral, math hat, my guess is
or your bonnet.
Or my bonnet, yes. It could be a bonnet.
I think we'd all like to be the bee in your bonnet, darling.
My guess is that those voters who'd be turned on by that already voted.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping the reasonable ones who are learning about this, the undecideds, the ones that are going to show up at the polls
You're
last
saying
minute.
Democrats are lazy?
No, I'm saying that they turn
last
out.
minute and procrastinators.
I'm not saying they're Democrats. I think a lot of them are independent. I think a lot of them are women.
Cowards.
And
they're cowardly women.
And we're going
they're
to
lazy,
win.
Cowardly women, which is all a redundancy, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And that's why she couldn't shatter the glass ceiling.
Oh, that's why.
You people are terrible savages.
It's only been 5 minutes. 5 minutes of being bad. Otherwise, I'm a great family man.
I won't judge you on just this.
Oh my God. Oh, feel free. No, he doesn't. He doesn't mind at all. I want to thank you for coming all the way from Florida to be here tonight as our special congressional envoy.
It's great to be here.
Yes, it's great to have you back in action, Trey Radel.
I love being
Michael
here.
Malice, a dream come true, a legend for the ages, and Nomiki Kunst. Remember, Ohi gluten.
Ohi gluten. Also Ohi gluten.
Yes.
Look that up on the internet.
Inithavma. All right, coming up, government surveillance in the UK.